What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages? Joker back again once again, and today we have a twab to talk about. It's about PvP and the sheer insanity going on there. So without further ado, let's dive right in, starting with the Iron Banner. Iron Banner, a post-eruption look. Like many of you, I spent a lot, probably more than wise, of time going head to head with my fellow guardians in the newly added eruption mode that took over Iron Banner this season. You know, in my original eruption video, I think I was kinder to eruption than I probably should have been. Because the more I think about it, the more eruption feels like a mismatch for a game like Destiny, because the way map flow, or the lack thereof, works in Destiny. In a game like Halo, if you become ignited, you get overshield, for example, and your kills count for more. It would basically be the same thing without ability spam or super spam. However, with one key fundamental difference. In a game like Halo, you have to make choices. Do you rush rockets? Do you go for the sniper that is securely on your side, but open to the sniper on the other side? Do you take a power position or leave a power position? Destiny doesn't really have these choices. The closest thing it comes to is Control. This is why Control is the premier playlist and kinda sort of the face of Destiny PvP. It's why other modes struggle to see success in Destiny, including Trials of Osiris. The majority of people play Control to play PvP. You can't really say the same thing about Trials of Osiris. I know, it sucks. In a perfect world, the unwashed masses would be more than happy to beat cannon fodder, so good players can get to the lighthouse and get all their loot. But that's not reality. But I digress. Destiny isn't a game where map flow is really a thing. So when you don't have objectives like in Control, what happens is teams run from spawn point to spawn point, and that's your game. And I, for one, do not enjoy deathball team shooting gameplay. It's just not fun to me. And I want to say that's the general consensus because modes outside of Control, like Salvage, Supremacy, Countdown, and Breakthrough, were not as well received as they could have been. And I think a lot of the reason people didn't like those game types, map flow that has no direction. But I digress once again. TLDR, there's a reason the game is built around Control, and modes that don't have Control like objectives, or have objectives that are more important than killing people, show why Destiny's PvP can be kind of a mess. In fact, I would dare say you can solve a lot of Destiny 2's PvP problems with casual Control and ranked Control. The article continues stating, for a quick first week wrap up, we've got the Rituals team back once more to dive into the reaction to Eruption and some inside info into a change that went live mid-week. Regarding skill-based matchmaking, one more note before we dive in. The skill-based matchmaking mid-week changes did not apply to Iron Banner. They only impacted the Control playlist. I really need to get around to making a video about how poorly skill-based matchmaking has been implemented, to the point that maybe, just maybe, the conspiracy theorists on Reddit have the right of it. And this is all being done on purpose, but more on that later. Rituals, a celebration of PvP for everyone. One of our main goals with the changes to Iron Banner was to lower the barrier of entry and widen the funnel for players to participate in the Iron Banner. Historically and expectedly, we usually see the most engagement on the first day of the event, followed by a significant drop-off in players until the weekend comes. With Eruption, we're seeing a consistent number of players across all days, and even an increase on the weekend. The number of hours played per player over each subsequent day of the week continues to increase. We'd like to interpret this as generally favorable feedback regarding the game mode as well as the Iron Banner ritual. We're glad to see that this is resonating with a large demographic of players, and we're hopeful we're on the right track towards accomplishing our goals. This is probably a fair assessment, though I would say there's likely more to it than Bungie is perhaps appreciating, and that largely comes from public perception. On one hand, you could argue people are grinding out the mode because they absolutely positively adore the game type. In my own general experience, however, people seem to be split, the general consensus being similar to mine, in that I'm glad to see a new game type. I like the idea of a mayhem light team deathmatch mode, but the execution seemed off, and the map rotation was utterly ass. So it may be a little putting the cart before the horse to assume all the success of this Iron Banner was down to the mode and the mode specifically. There's a lot of reasons why people played Iron Banner this season. First, people are now more aware of the Iron Banner's limited nature. The Iron Banner is offering weapons that are some of the better weapons in the game. I know a lot of people were after that God-rolled sidearm. And then there's the title. So to accredit everything to the game type is perhaps a little misleading. Then again, what else is a this week in from any company other than an advertisement, damage control, or propaganda? But I digress. Scoring issue. That said, we are aware of a bug where shutdown points were being awarded for each damage participant. This is not intended and is causing larger swings in team scores than intended. We are actively investigating the issue and are looking to get a fix for the second week. Working as intended.exe. So now we get the real meat of the blog post: control matchmaking changes and quitter penalties. Matchmaking time and skill. On average, matchmaking times for control have only increased by about 10 to 15 seconds. Wait for it. We are glad to not have increased matchmaking times for the majority of players. And there it is. But for players on the extreme side of the skill curve, their matchmaking times have either doubled or more than doubled. High and low skill players naturally have fewer opponents at their level. Thank you for explaining why skill-based matchmaking is anything more than an opt-in option is a bad idea. Now continue to explain why you haven't quite understood the lesson. As such, we adjusted our configuration so that matchmaking expands to a wider range of skills sooner, thereby finding a match sooner for those players. We don't expect this to affect the control experience for most players in the middle of the pack, and we hope that it broadens the available pool of guardians for our high and low skill players to match with. Latency. Yeah. You know, I was gonna edit that sigh out, but no, latency. While we expect the above change to reduce matchmaking times, we are also comfortable tuning the knobs to prioritize latency a bit more. We realize our initial numbers allowed for higher latency connections earlier than necessary. We made a change to restrict latency for longer before expanding the allowable latency threshold. This change sacrifices some matchmaking time for the sake of better quality matches. Again, this is why skill-based matchmaking needs to be opt-in and not mandatory. Because here's the reality of the situation. Bungie is never going to find the mythical, magical middle ground where everyone is getting matches at their level with little to no lag and little to no wait times. Because all of these factors will forever be in flux. Players come, players go. Populations increase, populations decrease. From day to day, from season to season. The best you can do is have a neutral connection-based matchmaking system for your casual playlist, and then you add a series of opt-in options that players can tune as they please, with the warning that players will get the good and bad that come with their choices. And that's fair. That's how it should be. Which brings us to the quitter penalty. We're aware that there has been an increase in quit rates for certain lobbies, whether due to connection quality or skill of opponents matched, particularly high skill players. While we hope that the above changes alleviate the quitting issue, we would like to actively discourage quitting, as it can negatively impact the remaining players. As such, we've added control to the list of activities that can trigger the Crucible suspension system. Note that suspension times for control are temporarily shared with competitive playlist, Glory and Trials. We are actively working on separating the suspension timer for competitive versus control. Ah yes, punish people because your shit system is shit. So now they have one of two choices: stay in shit games or suffer a penalty. Wonderful! I'm sure AFKing won't go up exponentially as people no longer have a choice. Thank you, Bungie! See, here's my issue with skill-based matchmaking. The removal of player agency. Skill-based matchmaking in its current form is supposed to be a testbed for tuning the system, and yet, we're already seeing the implementation of punishment to enforce Bungie's shit skill-based matchmaking system. Under a connection-based matchmaking system, players have the choice of getting better. And under skill-based matchmaking, players are punished for getting better. In fact, I would argue that skill-based matchmaking incentivizes trying to stay as mid as possible for the best experience. And now any outliers who are dissatisfied with the quality of their matches are told suffer through the match or be punished. So heads you lose, tails you lose. I mean, we're already playing Destiny and that's a pretty big L as is, but yeah, insult to injury. This is why opting into skill-based matchmaking is the only real option, because it gives players control over their own experience. Map selection. Outside of one map, we don't see any predictable difference in quit rates between maps. So while we will be making changes to the map weighting soon, we don't see this as a major factor in quit rate. While we have always weighted new maps higher for a couple of seasons in the interest of letting new players see the new content, we also started specializing playlist maps in Season 18. We used a lot of factors in determining the initial weightings: quit and mercy rates, player sentiment, internal surveys, and more. We will continue to periodically analyze the process, and as always, we welcome your feedback. They then go on to list the maps, and I can't be bothered. What do you want me to say? The map rotation's ass. But if I have to say something constructive, if Bungie really wanted to get the best data possible on the type of maps that people want to play when either bringing back maps or creating new ones, they should bring back map vetoing from Halo. Of course, every match will be on Javelin if at all possible, but if I never have to see Cathedral of Dusk again, that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. All in all, I don't think PvP is in a good place. Not even remotely. Skill-based matchmaking has made PvP miserable for anyone with, air quote, a skill rating above room temperature. The map rotation is consistently a point of contention, the meta is all over the place, and some might like that, but there is something to be said about consistency, which, to be fair, goes back to personal taste. Comp is a joke, Trials of Osiris continues to incentivize the worst indulgencies of the Destiny community, and with skill-based matchmaking jammed in the core chill and relax playlist, you do have to wonder if the conspiracy theorists on Reddit have the right of it. Is Bungie making PvP bad on purpose, so when they, air quote, save it in a season or two, everyone praises them? I mean, if we entertain the idea and go down that line of logic, there is something attractive about that. Spend 6 months with all the content creators dealing with the worst PvP has been in a long time, then remove skill-based matchmaking, and return to a, I don't know, shotgun hand cannon meta, just in time for the Lightfall marketing push? I'm not saying you're going to have a lot of happy free advertisers, I'm just saying this would be a move that made all of Bungie's free advertisement really happy. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Remember to like, but only if you did. Subscribe for more. Feel free to donate to my Patreon if you're feeling particularly generous. And above all else, stay frosty.